All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great eye in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
What is going on, everyone? This is Nate the Great coming to you live from the All Sports All Plays Network. This is Sportscorner, brought to you by Nate, Ray, and Greg. So how are you? How are the both of you doing?
I'm doing great. Just got back from my anniversary date with my wife, so I'm doing good today.
Yeah, doing pretty good, Nate. How you doing?
I'm pretty excited to get things moving, get things rolling. Before we get to the very first topic, we have some housekeeping to take care of. First off is ad from Suzanne's Paparazzi's Jewelry.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us, from all of us here at the ASAP Network.
And now, Misty Meadows. I just wanted to remind everybody that if you want to win a free t-shirt, all you have to do is like the show, comment the show, be engaged show. At the end of the month, we tally all the comments that were brought up. And whoever has the most comments at the end of the month will win a free ASAP t-shirt. A free ASAP t-shirt. But say for a second you're in the car, you can't type in the chat, you can't you're listening instead of watching. It is $14.99 if you wanted to buy one. For the sizes are from small to 2XL, $14.99 plus shipping and handling. So, going in, we're going to talk a little bit of NFL first. We're going to cornerback from Arizona Cardinals, who is on the free agent market, might go back to Arizona, might go to a different team. We're going to go, Ray, how about you go first on this?
Okay.
What team can you see? What team or teams do you see him going to?
Well, when I was doing some research on this topic, to me, he's probably going to stay with Arizona. That's the most practical spot because he's there. And plus now they got J.J. Watt added up with Chandler Jones up in the front. So they can try to keep him, but if he's got to have to take a little bit of a pay cut if he wants to stay. But if he wants to get paid, the other top contenders teams are come up with the Denver Broncos. After cutting A.J. Boye, they're probably going to be in the top looking for a shutdown corner. Same thing with the Cleveland Browns. Same thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And same thing with Arizona. Kansas City Chiefs. If he's not going to stay in Arizona, I think Kansas City Chiefs is going to be the best spot for him to be at because they definitely will need a starting shutdown corner on their defense. That's what happened to the back end. And the front end was the front seven was getting blown off. The back end was giving up a lot of plays and stuff like that. So with Patrick Peterson, that would cut down half the field for the other team. Will have to be subject on the other side of the 50-yard line and keeping away from Patrick Peterson, because Patrick Peterson is a ball hogger, and he's actually a good shutdown corner and a great, NFL player in history. So, but for the long shot team, I would like to see him in the Jacksonville Jaguars uniform, because we definitely need a shutdown corner on our back end defense, because our front seven is not getting in there. We need somebody that can shorten that field to the opposite side of a Patrick Peterson type player. So I would like to see him, but it's a long shot. But I have a good feeling that he's going to either stay in Arizona or he will be a Kansas City Chiefs in 2021.
So I think he's going to stay with Arizona. I think, but if I picked, I have 3 teams that I could see him going to outside of staying with Arizona. I'm going to go with the Jets. Only because the GM that brought Patrick Peterson to the Arizona Cardinals is now part of the Jets front office. So because of personal connections, I could see Patrick Peterson wanting to go over to the Jets. I could see, you said that that Jacksonville needs a lot of help on with that shutdown corner, but I'm going to go with another team that needs a lot of help on defense entirely. I'm going to go with Dallas Cowboys. They do need a lot of defensive help after what happened last year. Then the other one I'm going to go with San Francisco 49ers. I don't think Richard Sherman is going to stay with that team. I see him going elsewhere. For 2, I don't really know yet, but I see him going elsewhere. I don't think he's going to stay with the 49ers. And speaking of, Greg has hopped right back on. Okay. Greg, what is your where can you see Patrick Peterson going?
Well, I see Patrick Peterson. I'd love to see him go to the Colts, but I think that's kind of a long shot right now. Nate, that I'm a big-time Colts fan, and I'm on a Colts fan page on Facebook, and it seems like the last 2 years it seems like they've been wanting to pick up everybody from Tom Brady, Odell Beckham Jr., Phillip Rivers, any quarterback that's been out there, our name's been linked to it. But, any big-time player. But I think it's a long shot for Patrick Peterson right now for my Colts. So to be realistically, I could see him maybe going to the Broncos, because the Broncos, they're not too far from being able to compete. I mean, this one's for you, Nate. I mean, I think that if they can kind of get their quarterback situation patched up a little bit, I mean, I think they got a pretty good defense that may be pretty appealing to Patrick Peterson to play with a really good defense. So I don't think that Denver's a long shot. I think that they actually have a pretty good need for him right now. They just cut AJ Bouye, and so they're hurting right now for cornerback depth. So
Yeah,
I could definitely see him going to the Broncos. Another one is the Cowboys. I don't know how much money the Cowboys are going to have left to spend after dropping $160 million on Dak Prescott, but they definitely need cornerback help badly. The Washington football team, they have lots of money and they have a promising defense, so that may be an option too. And Patrick Peterson seems to have a pretty good relationship with Ron Rivera. Also, a team that might be in the mix would be the Buccaneers, even though they don't really need a cornerback. They're not really hurting at that position, but it seems like Tom Brady pretty much has a wish list for an all-star team right now that he's trying to load up over there. So that may just be an option. Plus, you got the Florida connection also with Patrick Peterson. So he may be wanting to go back home to Florida. So, but I think realistically, if you're not talking about my Colts or Bucks, I think that the Broncos or the Cowboys would probably be the best suitors. But again, it's all about whether the Cowboys can afford him at this point now.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying, but I feel like Denver's actually going to go after a cornerback in the draft. Use that number 9 pick on a Patrick Surtain or whatnot.
Or Caleb Farley or something.
Yeah, Caleb Farley, something like that. I feel like that's what they're going to go for. That's why I didn't have Denver on the list. Now, we do have a couple of comments, both from JMac. When do I get a free T-shirt? You're an ASAP analyst, so International Women's Day. Give them a shout out, please. Yes. It's a shout out. Shout out for them. Now, going into the next topic. Currently in the NFL, what is your top 5? Not top 5 quarterbacks in the league, but top 5. What quarterbacks do you think are the most underrated in the league? Give 5 from. And then I'm gonna go with Greg on this one first.
The top 5 underrated that I have, you always got to look at quarterbacks that play in cities where the fans just love to rag on the quarterbacks if things aren't going their way. So the first one on my list is the guy that my Colts just picked up, Carson Wentz. I think he's a very underrated quarterback. Carson Wentz, before he's had all his injury problems and he had, an off year this year, he's still one of the best in the business on the run and outside the pocket. So he's still one of the great quarterbacks in this league as far as if he's under pressure and you got him on the run, he can still make some great throws and everything. So I think that he's very underrated, and I think you guys wait and see. He's going to put up some good numbers this year in Indianapolis. I just have a feeling that this is going to be a turnaround year for him.
Before you go on your next guy, hold on. Before you go on your next guy, I just want to throw one stat out, which I agree, but here's why. Carson Wentz is the only quarterback ever to do this. He is the only NFL quarterback to throw for over 4,000 passing yards. And none of their receivers have caught for over 300 receiving yards. So I definitely agree with you on that. It does not just means that he's a great quarterback. Just has nothing to do with the receivers at all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was an exceptional stat there, Nate, because, he didn't have much to work with, yet he put up 4,000 yards. So I think with great line protection, and Indianapolis has some good receivers. I don't know if we're going to lose T.Y. Hilton this year, but we got Pittman that's coming on pretty strong. And we may be able to get a really nice draft pick, in the first round this year at the wide receiver position. So he's going to have a little bit of help. And, of course, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, he can catch passes really well too. So
breaking news: Kansas and Miles agree to part ways.
So, second quarterback that I think's underrated is Derek Carr. I don't know exactly what's going on with the Raiders. They're slowly making improvements, but Derek Carr, he's got about a 65% completion rate. That's pretty solid. He's a lot better than his older brother ever thought about being. He's a decent quarterback. I don't know why there's always speculation about the Raiders potentially looking to trade him, because he's actually, in my book, a pretty solid quarterback. Here's one for Brandon Herrera. Kirk Cousins. I think he's a very solid quarterback, very underrated. I know he hasn't won like too many big games, but he's still a competent quarterback and can make some big throws. Just ask Ace. Look what he did this year on that bomb to Thielen. So, you know what I'm saying? So, another underrated quarterback, an aging quarterback, Matt Ryan. Very healthy. He stayed very healthy his entire career. He's averaged about 4,300 yards, 27 touchdowns since 2008, his rookie season. Very underrated. Came up a little bit short in the Super Bowl, but I think that he's a very decent quarterback. I mean, he's put up some excellent numbers. Another quarterback that may be on the move or on the way out, but I think that he's been very consistent. The last quarterback on my list is Daniel Jones in New York. I know that New York is a very tough place to play, whether you're a Jets fan, Giants fan, whoever. I know that Eli wasn't always their man of choice either in New York, but Daniel Jones, I think that once he hones his skills, I think he's going to be an excellent quarterback. He put up very good rookie season a few seasons ago. Very solid. He's had some issues with fumbling in the past, but I think that he's a very solid quarterback, and I think that he's the quarterback of the future. So I think that a few of these quarterbacks that I mentioned, some of the teams and the fan base needs to give them a little bit more rope, a little bit more patience, because some of these quarterbacks are pretty good. So I don't know why some of them are under fire, but that's who I got for my top 5.
Ray, and then we're going to address the comments, and I'm going to go.
Okay, my 5 are Matthew Stafford. You got to look at Stafford. He played with Detroit. He needs to have an offensive line that can block for him. He's going to the 49ers. 49ers have a little bit of an upgrade offensive line for him. So I have the feeling that he's going to turn his season around. He's going to turn his career around in San Francisco. In the Los Angeles, I'm sorry, the LA Rams. So, that's an upgrade for him in getting that. Got a good, excellent quarterback coach there. And the head coach his offense is fantastic. Probably fits him more perfectly than the Detroit Lions. So I look at Stafford. Stafford threw for 4,084 yards this year. 7.7 yards, per attempt, 528 yards, 528 attempts, 338 yards completion, 64%. He had 26 touchdowns, but the interception ratio, he had 10 interceptions, but he got hurt too, and so he's been underrated most of his career. I think he's been a very good quarterback. I look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen's now starting to pick up his play. He's now going to be one of them issues getting back in it. I think he might end up in a top 5 category coming in the next 2 to 3 years. So he's another type of guy. He threw for 4,544 yards, 7.9 yards attempt, 572 attempts out of 396 completion. He completed 6.692. He had 37 and 10 interceptions. So that's a good ratio right there, in his ability. And my other one is Ryan Tannehill. People didn't give it, laughed at him in Miami, went to Tennessee. He had a good running game with Henry, but he's also an exceptional good quarterback season with him. Took him to the playoffs 2 straight years. He's been riding that ship. He's been directing traffic, been getting to the plays. I think you add a couple more, another good wide receiver in there. His career could take off, and behind Henry and Tannehill, I think that offense will pick up here in 2021 season. So Baker Mayfield, he's been underrated too. I mean, people laugh at him sometimes. He makes solid throws. He's like a magician. Sometimes if he gets in trouble, he can get out of it, with his legs and looks downfield. He's a good quarterback, getting down the field and stuff. He did pretty good this year too. So, you got underrated quarterbacks. You got your main top 5, but then you got your underrated ones who are going to turn out to be probably pretty good quarterbacks here. And I think him and Josh Allen would be good. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. My last one is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray out of Arizona. Everybody looks at him, when he first came in the league, he didn't really have a type-notch quarterback arm. He was more of a running quarterback. He's done turned that around now. I mean, he threw for 3,971 yards on 7.1 yard attempts out of 558 and 375 completion. He was a .672 completion rate, but he had 26 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So his game is going to start involving more. He's going to be one of them top tier quarterbacks coming up season in 2021.
So my number 5, I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson, and let me explain why. his MVP season, he led the league. He had the most number of passing yards in a single season and named their starting receiver. Exactly. Number four. Number four, I'm going to go with Matt Ryan. He's been on that team for several years, and their biggest problem was their defense. They had a great wide receiver. He's been great on the Atlanta Falcons. Great running game with Todd Gurley, which Todd Gurley's now with Todd Gurley, and number three. This might go a little bit of a shocker, only because I'm only saying that because of his last season. I'm gonna go with Watson. I think he led the league in the most passing yards in a single in last season, and he went 5-11. Some people don't even. I don't feel like people give him enough credit that he deserves. Outside of the whole wanting out situation. Number two, I'm actually going to go with your guy, Greg. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, stat I threw out there earlier, he threw 400 passing yards. 400 passing yards from in his last season, and he didn't have a receiver that caught for over 300. And then number one, I got to go with Matthew Stafford. He's been, he was in Detroit for his entire career. That had one wide receiver, and no, I'm not counting. I'm not counting. I'm counting Megatron, but that's it. Megatron is the only receiver that he's had for only great one he's had for his whole entire career. Lamar Jackson, best talent to ever come from Jacksonville. From the Jackson 5. John says if Herbert keeps it up, he will shock a lot of teams, especially their new head coach Brandon Staley, coming from Rams defensive coordinator. With Bosa coming from the back from injury, will help a ton. So going on to the next topic, we're sticking with the quarterbacks, but we're talking going history as well. If you had to pick one quarterback past present, and you have 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're at your own 10-yard line, who would you pick to go with for that drive? And I'm going to go with Bray on this one first.
Tom Brady. I mean, you got to go with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I mean, the guy, I can personally tell you, when I watched that Carolina Panther in the New England Super Bowl, that dude was down, and he drove that team all the way down with like a couple minutes before Vinatieri's field goal. I mean, that's one of the best. He's one of the best at the clock management. He can get the ball down the field, and when he needs it, or if he needs a field goal, he knows how to time it down to where he can get that field goal. I mean, Tom Brady's done it for over years and years in this league. I mean, you can't go without, So I think Tom Brady is my choice.
Greg?
Well, I got a pretty short list. I had about 3 guys. I had Johnny Unitas, who won the first ever sudden death game in NFL history and had over 25 comebacks in his career. Then, of course, you got 35 career comeback wins. Most notable, the drive against the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl when they started on their 2-yard line. But I think if I had to go with any quarterback, the main quarterback that I would go to would probably be Joe Montana. I don't know if you guys remember this, but that drive that he put together against the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl, when he made that last second short little touchdown pass to John Taylor, one of the
Yep.
most underrated receivers of all time. That was the stuff of legends.
Yep.
So I think Joe Montana, 31 comebacks in his 15, 16-year career says a lot. So I think if the game's on the line and you're at the 10-yard line or even worse, I think Joe Montana is your guy, in my opinion.
So as for me, I'm going to go full homer on this. I'm going to go with John Elway, Mr. Helicopter himself. He came back in a playoff game. I want to say we played the Jets that game. He came back, had that helicopter drive, and he's been a guy that's been known for continuous, been down several touchdowns, a couple of touchdowns with like 5 minutes left. He's been with 10 seconds left, coming from the 2-yard line. He's throwing a big deep pass. I'm gonna go with Mr. John Elway himself. So we're gonna move off of NFL. We're actually gonna go into MLB. We're gonna. So my question is, I'm go with Greg on this. Do you agree with the Colorado Rockies and with the Chicago White Sox about letting fans into their stadiums when regular season?
I do agree with it. I think that I'm kind of surprised to see Chicago, of all places, be open to this, because it seems like Chicago has had a hard time just getting the kids into school right now with the teachers union and everything like that. So I am very shocked to see that the Chicago White Sox are open to this, because the city in itself has been very hesitant with the COVID restrictions and everything. But I like this move. I think it's a good sign that people are wanting to start having some common sense with the COVID and get back out there and start living their lives. And people are starting to want to take control and take back their lives and everything. So I'm completely for it. I think that it's a sign that a lot of people are fed up with all the restrictions and everything, and people are just wanting to control their own destiny and trust their own immune systems and everything. So I love this idea. I'm very shocked that these two cities are open for it. These are two cities that I wouldn't necessarily think of wanting to do something like this. But I'm very happy to see that these two cities are taking a stand and at least trying to do the right thing for their fans and for the game of baseball. So, in my opinion, I think it's a good move. It's a smart move, and I think that it's time to get moving. It's time to get on with life and start moving forward a little bit.
Right.
You talking about coming to a sporting event and stuff like that. Me, I agree with both cities and them having fans come back. I think because I can tell you exactly here in Jacksonville, we did that during the Jaguar games and stuff like that. But we did it based on a model of a 25% capacity of the stadiums. If they're going to start that route, that's a good route to go, because you can control that spread and spreading people out in the city. And we had to keep our mask on all the times. If they keep that scenario on down, I think this is going to be a first great step, because, some of the NFL cities took that first step. Now you got some of the Major League Baseball is going to take that step into it. You got some like the college basketball has took some of that step in North Carolina, allowing 10% of their fans in stadium revenue. So we need to get our life back together, and we need to start opening up some of these stadiums and, getting fans back in there, getting the fans back where they need to be, and getting this, back into our regular lives. So I agree with both cities on letting the fans attend baseball games, and because some of the stadiums are open air stadiums and stuff like that. So if you keep them 6 feet apart, you should be good to go and keep that mask mandate. You'll be good. If you do the way that Florida has done, some of I know in Jacksonville, we had never had any COVID issues with people attending stadium and attending football games. We even have them attending AEWs now. wrestling here at Daly's place. Nobody has picked up COVID there and haven't shut down fans and anything like that. And we have also did a concert. We also got hockey going on right now in Jacksonville at the Veteran Memorial inside with the same concept they did with the Jaguars. So if they keep that plan and they go with that plan the right steps, I think this is a good start. And then we can see down filter from the Major League going all year long for 182 games. If they don't have any COVID issue with the fans, then this could be a great model for every other sports to pick back up.
I have two things to say about this. One, you got to look at it is it an indoor stadium or is it an outdoor stadium? There's several things you got to look at. How much percentage of fans you're going to let in? Full capacity, I completely disagree with. How much percent of fans are you going to let in? 5, 10? Is it, if it is an indoor stadium, is it a stadium with a dome roof on top? Where it could be, roof could be like movable, slidable. So where it'd be like, or is it completely? If it's a stadium that is like, if it's a stadium that has a dome roof on top, but doesn't have that contractible opening thing, then I don't think there should be until it's completely taken care of, or at least 98% of it is taken care of. But if it's an outdoor stadium if it's one where the dome roof thing is open, then maybe you'll allow 5% of fans, maybe allow 10%. But then you also got to look at the weather as well.
Yeah, it's all the variables you got to look at here. You got to look at the heat, the cold. I mean, a virus can't go through the heat very well. I mean that's a sign right there that baseball could let people in. Now, when you're talking about dome stadiums and indoor stadiums, if you don't fill them up capacity, if you fill up 25% of their capacity of a 15, 16,000 seat stadium, but you're talking about a dome that's going to probably sit by 25, 26,000 people. But if you only do 25%, you're only going to get probably about maybe 10 or 15,000, but they're going to be spread out. They're not going to be, because the way they did it here, we had what you call a pod system. If you had two people, one row had two people on it, and then the next row in the middle had a one person. If you wanted 10, then you had at the end of that row, you had 3 people, but you had like 8 or 9, about 10 seats between each person in that thing. If they keep that guidelines right there, then it's going to be kind of hard, and you keep your mask on. The only time they had to want to allow to wear their mask if they were eating or drinking. But if you were drinking, they gave a straw, so we could use a straw, put it up underneath the mask. So that's what you got to talk about. What your regulations are you going to set forth for the team, and how are you going to set the fans? And if you got, because we had people watching us, and they had the people that sit you to the seat. They also had people with signs, "Please wear your mask." And if you didn't wear your mask, they came and tell you that. So that in every row. So if you have that kind of sustain of control right there, then you can control what's going on in your stadium and can control it better. And what we did at the first beginning was they took people's temperature as they coming in. They had somebody to stand there saying, give them a quick, shot with their head temperature, make sure their temperature went over 100. If they was over 100, they put them on their fan for about 10 or 15 minutes away from the people in a controlled area. And then you see if the fan will cool them down. If it comes out under that temperature, then, they allow them in. But they also put it out on the radio, and they also put out in the stadiums when you come. If you got a temperature, if you feel sick, do not enter the stadium. So, on that top, as people, we got to be responsible for that. We got to know if we're feeling sick, don't go to the stadium and stuff like that. So, I mean, you just can't blame all that on the team. But then, the team has got to get fans back in there to get that revenue back up. And that's what they are trying to do. And they're easing them back in, doing that 25 to 15 or 10% of fan capacity. That's gonna allow. Then you can open up as more as you get more data or more people get vaccine as coming available. So that's what we're looking at in this pandemic at this time.
Okay, Greg, do you have anything to add on to that?
No, I think that it all comes down to common sense. I think that people want to be reliant. I mean, I think that people want to be able to just be able to take care of themselves and account for themselves. You know, if people are, you know, still high at risk, then stay home. If people are healthy, no symptoms, can follow the guidelines. You know, there's a lot of states that are opening up right now, and there's some states that never did close down anything. South Dakota didn't really do anything. They've had very low numbers. They just had a lot of common sense. They still wore masks into certain places and stuff, but they never had to close down movie theaters. They never had to close down restaurants. They never had to shut down small businesses. So there's ways to work around this, and it's time to get fans in the stands. I don't know about, you know, going to 100% full capacity, but there's ways to be smart about this,
Oh, I
and
definitely disagree
you
about the
know,
whole. I definitely disagree about the whole 100% full capacity thing, but maybe 5, maybe 10. I'm kind of a little more hesitant than everybody else is on that. JMac says that if you don't think that the stadiums should be wide open, then why should Walmart, Target, Safeway, etc. be wide open?
Yep.
Um, so moving on to the last baseball segment that we had. Out of all time, who do you think has the best arm out in the outfield? Gonna go with Ray on this.
Okay, me. I think Larry Walker is one of the best. With the best right on, throwing on from the outfield. I mean, Walker was known for his ability at the plate, but he was also known as a gun for an arm. Runners were hesitant to try to take extra bases when he had the ball. At Coors Field in 1995 and 2003, Walker won 7 Gold Gloves and ended his career with 154 outfield assists. Another one is Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb was known for his hitting also, but was also known for his defense. He was the 14th highest total of all time. Cobb is also remembered by his fancy attitude and his aggressive play styling. So Ty Cobb was one of the good ones. Let me see here. Ken Griffey Jr. You can't leave this guy out. This guy was great with his glove and his throwing arm. Teams would never try to take extra bases on him when he got the ball because he knew he could throw them out. And especially with him, with Ken Griffey, if you notice, half the time he throws people out at the plate, he don't never use the cutoff guy. He always overshot the cutoff guy, but he always get the guy dead at the plate. So that's my top 3 right now. For the right arm, for the right arm, most powerful arm in the outfield.
Greg, I feel like you're gonna take my answer. But go ahead. I feel like you're gonna take my answer though.
Okay, my top 2 that I came up with is Jesse Barfield. I saw this guy play many times in the 80s, early 90s. The guy had an absolute cannon. He had 3 seasons in the big leagues where he had over 20 assists in those seasons. I mean, the guy could flat out throw it from right field, gunning people down at second base, third base, at home plate. So, I mean, the guy just had an absolute cannon. You could tell that this guy didn't take performance enhancing drugs, because one thing about performance enhancing drugs is if you start taking those kind of drugs, it's going to mess up your throwing a lot. You're not going to be able to get over the top. It's going to mess with your throwing, which is why I think that a lot of the people that may have been in the steroid report, that were pitchers and stuff, I don't really know if they were really doing it or not, because it would have completely messed up their throwing mechanics. But that's a completely different story. The best arm that I've ever seen from old footage was probably Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente had probably the best arm that I've ever seen. He made a phenomenal play in the 1971 World Series against the Baltimore Orioles, where he made a catch, did a spin, threw the ball to third base, and he had a guy dead to rights. The guy was called safe. Looking at the footage, he may have been safe because the third baseman did not make a very good tag. He didn't lean forward to make a very good tag. So I think that the runner may have made it under the tag, but he had, it looked like the second baseman was going to get in there easily. And then Roberto Clemente just threw a bomb to third base and had the guy out by a good half a second or more, So if you get a chance, go look that up. And then he also made another play where a guy was thinking about heading home, but he stopped at third base because Roberto Clemente fielded a ball off the right field wall and was probably about 2 steps in from the wall when he threw it, and threw a one hop all the way to home plate that took like less than 2.5 seconds to get there. So, I mean, Roberto Clemente, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, probably the best arm of all time that I've ever seen. And an interesting quote from the legendary former broadcaster Vin Scully said that Roberto Clemente could field a ball in New York and throw the guy out in Pennsylvania. So that speaks a lot when Vince Scully says that about your arm strength. So Roberto Clemente, I think, is the best arm for an outfielder that I've ever seen in my life.
So my answer is actually taken twice. Well, not twice, but two different answers. Where both of them were actually taken. Greg, you said Roberto Clemente, and then I also was gonna go with Bo Jackson, but that was taken in the comments. But I actually do have a number 3, and that's Carl Thurio. Not sure. Not sure. Or the reading rifle is what he was called. He led the all outfields in assists in 1951 with 24, and he has 151 for his career. The most remarkable assist came from between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1951. So my number 3 was Carl Furillo, Furillo.
Can't make his name out.
So we're going to transfer into the NBA, and there's a recent signing, Brooklyn Nets signing, Roberto Clemente. No. I said Roberto Clemente, but Blake Griffin was signed with the Brooklyn Nets. I'm gonna go with Greg on this. What are your thoughts about this signing? Do you like what the Nets did with this signing? Do you agree with it, or you think they should have gone elsewhere?
I'm sorry, Nate, you're breaking up. What was the question, bud?
Do you think that Blake Griffin should have signed with? Do you agree with that signing with him going to the Nets, or do you think he should have gone somewhere else?
I think that it was a pretty good signing. I think that
We lost him.
Ray, why don't you take over for him?
Okay. I think Blake Griffin is a good sign with them. They'll probably blossom up the New Jersey Nets bench. Give KD some breaks in the action. Don't have to play so many minutes. You're talking about a 4-hit. You're talking about a 4-headed monster now instead of a 3-headed monster. So I think with him signing, upgraded the New Jersey Nets as the team to beat in the East and for the NBA Finals over the Los Angeles Lakers. I know Freddie ain't gonna like that, but still, you got to understand they got capable of 4 All-Stars on their team now. who could capable of play. But I know Blake Griffin is not like his old self, like he was with the LA Clippers, or, he's been downgraded a few, years with Detroit, but he is a very good, capable player to keep that, to keep it, coming off the bench for them. So to add somebody off the bench, add a little bit of punch off the bench now. So that's going to give, teams trouble, like the Los Angeles Lakers with their, two guys of LeBron and Anthony Davis when he comes back. I mean, I don't think a team's going to slow down Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn can outscore a team. I mean, basically, if you look at that core scores, so they can outscore. But adding Blake Griffin is now adding some more defense, a little bit of defensive punch, and a little more rebounding punch to it. So that's my take on that signing. I think it's a very good sign. I think, you're not losing anything by taking him. If he stays healthy the remainder of the season, that's the big question. Can Blake Griffin stay healthy throughout the remaining of the season?
Greg, what do you think about that? And I have another question to ask after you finish your answer.
Well, here's the thing about Blake Griffin. I think that it was a pretty solid signing on his part. I think that he saw that, that the Nets have a whole plethora of scoring with Harden, Durant, and Irving. The thing is about Blake Griffin is he's no longer an all-star, but he's still a very capable player, like Ray was saying. He's he's not going to probably get you, the 20 to 25 a night that he was capable of at one point in his career, but he's probably going to be able to get you, around 13 to 17 points a night. He's a very solid rebounder. He's not an excellent defender, but he can guard a four pretty well, above average. He probably can't take anybody defensively in the three, playing the three position that well anymore. But, the Nets have very weak defense and they're rebounding. I mean, James Harden, their point guard or shooting guard, whatever you want to call him, he's their leading rebounder right now on the team. So bringing in Blake Griffin, he's going to get him some good rebounds. So he makes good blockouts and get some good boards down there. So I think that's pretty solid pickup. And the good thing is that he's not going to be relied on. They're not going to rely on him to be a 20-point a night scorer. They've already got all those people to do that. They got Irving, they got Durant, they got that Harris kid. So they've got Harden. So, they're going to fill up the buckets. And the good thing about Blake Griffin is he can come in, he can play some solid D on some some fours down low and get some good boards, chip in 14, 15 points tonight. And they're going to have a really great offense. And I think that it's really good to see him kind of move on from a struggling Pistons team. So I think for his career, it's a good move because the Pistons are definitely kind of in a rebuild process. And, they're moving on from players like Derrick Rose and Griffin now in Detroit. So I think it's a good move, and it gives them a little bit more depth in their lineup. So, they lost a couple decent players in that trade when they picked up Harden. So it's good to get a player like Griffin in their lineup.
So there's a lot of things out there that the Lakers were interested in them. Now, since that didn't work, he went to the Nets instead of the Lakers. What do you think the Lakers should go for? What piece do you think that they should go for Drummond, like mentioned in the comments, or do you think they should go after somebody else? Go with Greg on this one first.
They could pick up Drummond. I could see that. The thing is, the Lakers have one of the best defenses in the league, even with Anthony Davis, not necessarily being in the lineup as of late. They still got a very solid defense. They still have quite a few good offense options on offense. So I really don't know if the Lakers really need to go out and buy anybody or take anybody up off of waivers or pick up anybody's contract right now. But I could see them trying to make a move just because, the Jazz are still playing tough and there's the Western Conference is really tough. So I don't really know who they would go after. They might want to pick up another shooter or something, but I think right now the Lakers, are pretty stacked on defense, and with LeBron, and then if Davis comes back healthy, they're still going to look like one of the teams to beat, if not the team to beat, just because of how well they play defense.
Ray, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if you look at their roster, like you said, they're good on the defensive side. They got rebounders, they got defensive players, but they need to go pick up another additional score because Kyle Kuzma is not a consistent double figure scorer for him. He can't be that third guy because you don't know what nights he's going to be on, what nights he's going to be off. You got Caruso, playing good, coming off, off the bench and stuff like that for him, but I like this, see them go after probably, like to say Drummond probably will fit in, right? But the problem is they got Mark Gasol there at the backup position at the center. So, I mean, they're gonna have to release some players to get enough room in the cap room, or they're gonna end up going over the luxury tax to keep up the players for this season. So, I mean, the Lakers, to my opinion, Drummond would probably be a good fit for them for defensive wise. I mean, he can score, but he's not a political scorer from that center position, but he's a good defensive rebounder, a good defensive player. So he could probably pick up a few offensive rebounds for him too.
Now, so it was talked a little bit at Real Talk actually earlier today. Trey Collis actually said this, but I actually agree with him. I think Victor Oladipo is going to go to the Golden State Warriors instead of the Lakers to help out Steph Curry over there. Do you guys agree with that statement before we move on to our last topic? Go with Ray on this one.
Victor Oladipo with the Golden State Warriors. That would be a good move for him because I mean he's a good scorer, but he's also a hell of a defensive player at that guard position. I mean, yeah, with Klay Thompson out right now and Steph Curry, that could make a good tandem backcourt right there. Steph is going to get his points. Victor Oladipo is going to get his probably about 18, 19, maybe 20 points. But he also can shut down one of the key guard players that other teams have, and like McCollum for Portland. Teams like who's got a good second guard that he could put on, or he could play he could play the point guard and on the defensive side and put Curry on the shooting guard. So, I mean, that would be a good move for Golden State to do.
Okay. Last but not least, we're going to actually stick with basketball. Well, actually, let's stick with basketball, but we're going to go down to the college side. We're going to talk a little bit about March Madness. Now, currently, we have some games going on right now, but nothing, top 25 worthy. They came out with an AP top 25. Do you see any last do you see any thing that do you have any hot takes about the March Madness that you might not that other people might not expect? Go with Greg on this one first.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that the Loyola team from Chicago, Loyola Chicago, is going to be a team to watch. I've talked about it before. They made a good run a few years ago. They had that nun that was just going wild in the stands. I think that they're an entertaining team. I think that they're a team that could definitely pull off a couple upsets. You got Gonzaga, who's playing strong, but I'm not totally bought in yet on Gonzaga. I know that we talked about this last week, between Gonzaga and Michigan and Baylor. And I think that Gonzaga is the strongest team between those three to win it. But the thing about Gonzaga to look out for is that they don't always play against the best competition in their league. And sometimes that can be a setback when you get into the tournament and play against the big boys, because when you're playing Santa Clara and lesser teams like that in your conference, and then you get into the Sweet 16 and everything, and you're getting stiffer competition. Sometimes the teams that you play in a lesser conference don't really help you, just like it does in hockey with the Canadian League, and you got a couple really bad teams, so other teams aren't really getting better at the top, playing like really bottom dwelling teams. So I think that Gonzaga could be up for a potential upset at some point if they come up against a team unlike anything that they've seen before. But I don't know. I think it's pretty straightforward right now, though. I still in my heart think that Gonzaga is going to go a long ways, but some of these mid-major schools always have problems sometimes in the tournament because the competition that they play during their league doesn't really prepare them for the bigger teams or surprise teams that you can see in a tournament.
Ray?
Well, we talked to this earlier today on that new show, Bring It, about the March Madness and Gonzaga and stuff like that. I'm not sold on Gonzaga because I'm going to tell you a reason why. Gonzaga's last team they played in a real competitive Power 5 team, so I go with the Power 5 conference, was Virginia. They blew them out. But that was back in December. So now they haven't played anybody since January. They haven't played anybody that's really good in February. And now you're coming up to March. So you got 2 months away from the last team they really played that was our significant power team that like Virginia. Virginia was ranked number 16 when they played them. They blew them out by 20 points. They played Kansas at the beginning of the year. We didn't know how good Kansas was going to be this year. So they blew a team. The only team they didn't blow out out of this whole stretch out of the Power 5 team was West Virginia. That's the only team that played them actually good. They only lost to them by 5 points. I think it was 87-82. So when you look at the teams and you look at how March Madness, and the many years I've been looking at March Madness, you might have a strong team. You only had 2 undefeated teams to go through the whole year undefeated to win a national championship. You had UCLA and you had the Indiana team in 81. So it's going to be hard for a team to go undefeated into the March Madness because a lot of potential stuff can happen. They can meet a team that is good at slowing them down, or they can meet a team that is good at shooting threes. You have many directions. Or they can meet a team that's got, massive trees down below who could play a different style. So, I mean, my hot take is I guarantee you Gonzaga won't win it this year.
My hot take is I'm going to go deeper on that hot take. I don't think they're going to make it to the Final Four. Simply recap what everybody's been saying. Going into the going into the playoffs undefeated is a risk, or even breaking the record in the NBA or NHL, MLB, breaking the record for most number of wins. That's a risk because all of these end up in some sort of outside of 1972 Miami Dolphins. That's the only exception. Out of all these things that happen, talking hockey a little bit. Tampa Bay Lightning broke that record in 2019. Look what happened to them in the first round. They got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. New England Patriots, they went to the Super Bowl undefeated, and they lost to the 9-7 New York Giants. And now we're talking about an undefeated Gonzaga team who's been, basically, I think they've been first in the regular season for so long, so many years, and they haven't won it each and every single year. I don't even think they're going to make Final Four. Now, do you think they're going to make the Final Four? We're going to go with Greg on this one.
You're talking about Gonzaga, right, Nate?
Yeah, Gonzaga.
I think that, we don't really have the bracket yet, so I haven't really, I really haven't made any predictions yet, but I do think that they're going to make the Final Four. But I think that one interesting thing to note, though, is I think that we might have another James Mason on our hands. I don't know who that is going to be yet, but remember James Mason when they made a run towards the Final Four and they were like a 12 seed? several years ago. They just kind of
Yeah.
came out of nowhere. So I don't know exactly who that team's going to be. I really, in my heart, think that, a Loyola Chicago is going to make it quite some ways in the tournament. That's probably my hot lead right now on who I think is a team to be on the lookout for. I do think that Gonzaga is going to make the Final Four. They have two guys that are going to be probably top 5 to top 10 draft picks. They got an excellent point guard. So I don't know if they're going to win it, but I definitely do see them making it to the Final Four. I think it's unfortunate that if they do lose, their first loss is going to be in the tournament, because that's a heartbreaking way to get your first loss of the season is in the tournament.
Hopefully they lose tomorrow, because I just breaking news. Well, not really. They won today. They beat St. Mary's, and they faced the winner of BYU and Pepperdine, which plays right now.
Yeah.
So,
and I hope that Pepperdine, Pepperdine was a team that I had going into the NCAA tournament, and then they've had some setbacks too. They've got an excellent point guard, but they just haven't been able to be consistent all season long. So Pepperdine was another one of the teams that I thought was going to for sure make it. So, they're going to have to come up with something miraculous to get in. But yeah, I do think that Gonzaga is going to make it to the Final Four. I think that this may be Mark Few's swan song, but I don't know. I think the Gonzaga is going to make it to the Final Four. It's just a tough one to call, because it's been such a weird season for college basketball. I'm just excited to have the March Madness back. I wish that they would have came up with all these safety protocols and stuff last year for the men's and women's tournament, because the Oregon Lady Ducks were on fire. I think that was their year to either win the tournament or at least go to the championship. I think that would have been a heck of a game between them and South Carolina. So I think that we got cheated a little bit last year because they didn't come up with this. I think that we got cheated last year in Major League Baseball because we lost out on 100 games due to contracts and everything else going on. And so we could have gotten a lot more games than just 60 games out of Major League Baseball. So it is nice to see that we're going to have a March Madness this year for the men and women.
So this just about wraps it up. It's been an hour and 2 minutes long. So, before we get our final thoughts, I wanted to remind everybody that the first show tomorrow is a show that I personally have been doing for a while, but it's tomorrow at noon. Is Brandon and I will be doing sports status, so make sure to check that out. So do you have any final comments before we give this a close? We're gonna go with Ray on this one first.
Yeah, I just want to say something about the undefeated team. There were actually 3 undefeated teams. I forgot the 1957 NCAA champion North Carolina Tar Heels with Rosenblum as the forward. But like you saying that Gonzaga and all them, I have Gonzaga going to the Final 8. They're losing in the Final 8, point blank. I don't think they're going to get past that to get into the Final Four opportunity. I think they're out of the Final 8 because they're going to probably meet a team that's going to probably be more their style of play, but have better athletes than they do. So I have Gonzaga going to the Final 8. It's my final take.
Greg?
I just, it is International Women's Day, and I just want to give a shout out to all the women, not just in the United States, but internationally. We have a lot of great women that have contributed to many great things, in arts, science, all kinds of different fields, acting, professional sports. We've had a lot of great role models from international women. So I just want to give a shout out to all the women internationally, and of course the women stateside. So that's what I got.
My final comment before we give this off. I can't wait personally for March Madness, and I can't wait for that time, even if it's 15 years from now, when BYU finally beats Gonzaga. Just like I can't wait for that time when Kansas City finally lose to Denver, even if that's 15 years from now. So this has been Nate, Ray, and Greg signing out for now.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Grit high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so time for laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.